Welcome, everybody. This is All Minus One, and my name is Bill. Thanks for showing up to the show. I haven't been able to stream during the week. I've been working. I still have to run off to work here in a bit, but I found a little bit of time today. So this will probably be a short one, like 30, 45 minutes, maybe. We'll see where I go, how far I can get along in this before I have to get out of here. But I titled this, right? Ukraine and the geopolitical dialectic. So you might think, Bill, what does that mean? Why am I even clicking on this other than the meme you put as the, the thumbnail over on YouTube? Well, you have to understand the situation from the globalist perspective. And the globalists use the Hegelian dialectic. And they use this the same way that the Marxists use it, because they essentially are, maybe they're not Marxist per se, maybe there's some sort of fascist, I don't know, but they are about having the world socialized and turned into a peasantry for them. Uh, this seems to be quite obvious. They are quite powerful. They don't care about you. They don't care if they lock you down. But the minute that, let's say, Ottawa is locked down by the civilians, well, good Lord, we can't have that. Emergency powers are needed. So I wanted to bring up the topic in a wide perspective, and I want you all to think about this in a way that is maybe a little bit different than what you are normally used to thinking about these things, because there is a lot of propaganda out there, right? There are a lot of things going on. There is a lot of video from years ago, back from Crimea. Mind you, Crimea is part of Russia. It always was. So let's get that straight. Um, a lot of you don't know anything about the politics of Russia because you don't have any ties to Russia. And I don't really have any ties to Russia other than, 15 years ago or more, 17 years ago now, I started training Russian martial arts. I know a lot of Russian guys. I've trained with a lot of Spetsnaz. This is, these are my hobbies. These are the things that I do. These are the things that I love to do. If I was a younger man and smarter and didn't marry, the person that I married, I may be doing that professionally, training people full time. But it's not what I'm doing, at least not right now. So in any case, you have to understand this greater picture of the world and the goals of the oligarchs that run the world, because the real goal is to set up the one world government, the new world order, if you would. It's funny that was mentioned by someone in the Ukraine the other day. We'll get to that. And with that new world order, this global order, global democracy, global liberal order, free trade, open borders, all this stuff. Someone has to be in charge of it, right? Someone has to dictate and control policy. The West does not want the East to do that, but they do. They do really like the Chinese way. And they like, this is without a doubt. You start looking at what these people have to say about it. Go look at what Trudeau said. I played it over on the Ends Justify the Memes about how he liked how China could do things for the environment. There used to be several thousand, I think it was like 20,000 rivers or something like that. I might be over exaggerated. It might be 2,000, but it was some odd thousand rivers in China before Mao came along that are gone now. They're extinct because that's what communism brings. It does not bring environmental good. It brings destruction every time. So let's talk about this a little bit in the historical aspect. Now, I'm going to try and keep this brief and quick because I do have to run off to work here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some videos that I want you to do your homework on. I want you, dear listener, dear viewer, to go watch these and educate yourself if you're not already. At least, understand that whatever I'm telling you here, you have resources to go back to. And this is always how I approach things, because I'm not going to spoon feed you guys. You guys get to believe what you want to believe. I'm just espousing the way I see it. I'm espousing the picture that I see. And I have some understanding of this. Like I said, like I have a very good friend. He's from Belarus. He grew up under the Soviet regime. And maybe I should say a very, very good friend. I don't message or text the guy all the time, but I don't do it with any of my friends because I'm a guy. That's not how we operate. you know, but I know a lot of people, a lot, thousands of people, hundreds, whatever. Um, I know people all around the world. I make friends everywhere I go, but I have a few people that I consider tight, like good friends, even if I barely talk to them. And they're almost like family to me. I had to go the other day for that exact reason. My one of my good friends who travels all over the world all the time. I never see the guy. I think until recently I hadn't seen him in 2 or 3 years, but he is like family to me. His mom died. I knew her. That's like family to me. So this is just how I operate. But in any case, um, I do have some ties to that world, and people who do are seeing this picture a lot better than what the media is putting out. So let's start here first. Let's go with kings and generals. And this is a little 2-hour presentation on the history of um, the Rus people, which essentially is an amalgamation, believe it or not, of those people of the Slavic tongues, of Vikings, somewhat of the further east people like the Huns, and even the Mongols, and a little bit of the Middle Eastern people. There's a huge mix in the Rus line. And this goes way, way back with them fighting with each other and wars and people surrounding it and land. And you have to understand where Russia is and the vast amount of resources that are in that nation. Do you think right now, in geopolitical terms, that Russia is has a strong economy when it doesn't even have a GDP the size of Texas? Right? California outperforms it. I'm pretty sure Florida, New York outperforms it. I might be mistaken, but some of the really small states like Maryland probably are really close to it. So you have to understand that the the nation of Russia right now is not an economic powerhouse, but they of course do have some backing from China. Now, with that, what are they trying to do? Well, they're trying to establish their economic power. I talked about this in the past, back when people were saying, oh, Trump's taking away, he's moving 10,000 troops from Germany or whatever it was. I think it was like 3,000 actually. Um, like Germany can't handle itself. Absolutely absurd. Germany is one of the top GDP nations in the world, especially in Europe. I don't think that they are going to be that concerned with, especially with NATO. And that's what really a lot of this comes down to is NATO and what NATO is doing with the Ukraine and how the Russians view Ukraine as a puppet state of NATO. If someone was on my backyard and they were kind of inching in and making threats and maybe putting nuclear weapons in my backyard, I might be a little concerned too, right? So again, go do your homework, go watch this, watch it in parts, understand more, get some culture in your life, get some history, understand about the long roots and history of these people, of these nations. The Rus people are quite eclectic, and there is a long lineage of warfare and battle. It's one of the reasons why I got into Russian martial arts because it's so adaptive. Here is another one from Geohistory that you should check out. And this is a much shorter video, but it shows you some of the roots and the mappings. And again, this is why when you go back in ancient history, this is why all the people that espouse all this stuff about ethnicity and race and all this stuff, it's a bunch of nonsense. All right, everyone's a migrant, everyone's a mutt. We've all mixed together. People and cultures change over time. Now, does that mean that we want to lose our culture and our values? Not necessarily. Um, so that's why we have to be careful about who we allow in. But this again will explain where their origins came from, who these people are, this amalgamation, and why they think the way that they do. Because Westerners in the modern world, especially us here in America, who have an insane amount of luxury, don't understand the strife and turmoil these people lived in, the utter slavery and serfdom they lived in for generations and the war that they had with their neighbors for generations. It needs to be understood to put this whole thing into context. So, um, another interesting video that I think you should check out. There's only a couple here, guys, and I'm really going to get in the meat and potatoes of it. But again, I want you to do your homework. Um, and it's not super interesting per se, but this was put out yesterday by Tim Pool. But his opinion about this Ukrainian parliament member talking about the New World Order, and they're fighting for the New World Order. Tim denies this of sorts. Tim doesn't believe in conspiracy theory. But let me tell you, folks, he also acknowledges that these people get around and conspire. He thinks it's emergent, as in it's culturally emergent. It's in the mindset of these people, and technology brings it about. 100%. I don't disagree, Tim. Where you're wrong is just because it's emergent doesn't mean that other people don't try to force it upon us from the top down. That is quite obvious. What is going on in Hollywood right now? What has been going on in Hollywood, in video games, in culture? This is 100% coordinated. It is 100% a conspiracy. It is 100% the goals of a certain amount of people who do get together at Davos, right? The World Economic Forum, at the UN, at wherever, at their secret meetings, the Bilderbergs, the Council of 300, the, innumerable little secret societies that all seemingly have the same goals. And that's not just global domination, but a one world government where everyone can be unified. And we will have a one world religion with that, folks. Believe me, it's there. I don't talk about it enough, but it is there. It is in the documents. It is in the writings of people like Alice A. Bailey, who I spoke of a few weeks back. Now, I'm going to play this video of what she said. And again, I want you to understand this and take this in. She's fighting for the New World Order.
Rest of us that aren't Ukrainians. I think the world, quite frankly, Kira, is surprised by the will of the Ukrainian people to stand up and fight. Are you?
Well, I'm not surprised. We have been fighting Putin for the last 8 years, and we had 3 revolutions in our country when we did not agree with what was going on with the direction of where we're moving in. But right now, it's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order for the democratic countries. We knew that we are the shield for the Europe.
Now, she said 2 things there. We fight for this new world order for this democratic country. They don't live in a democratic country, so that's nonsense. They got rid of their democratically elected president for a Westerner or a Western-minded individual who, again, the Russians see as a puppet. 2, she said, the euro. Now, a lot of this is about money and control. For a very long time, I think 70 some odd years now, China has been wanting to become the world power, and they will be by 2050 for sure. That is their goal date, the 100-year plan, but they most certainly will be. They own the majority of the banks. Now, you don't have to believe me. A lot of people don't agree with me, but I'm telling you right now, they own a lot of the banks. They own the majority of them. Talked about this some time ago in the past. Went through and broke it all down. The financial power is always the global power, folks. It's the way it works. The United States is propped up on a false system, a system of lies and deceit. And, if you want to hear the side of Russia and what they believe, you can do that too. Putin made a big, long speech, and he called America a nation of lies. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong. That statement has been made before by numerous people. It's just, it's Putin. He's the evil, evil one. I'm not saying Putin's a good guy, but you think that that Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and all your beloved Democrats, Joe Biden, are good people? Hillary Clinton We came, we saw, he died. Right? We came, we saw, he died. Let me chuckle. Murdering people is no laughing matter, folks. Let me tell you. Like, and if you laugh about it, it should be that nervous laughter, not a laughter of joy. And that was a laughter of joy. And of course, we all know the internet rumors surrounding the Clinton sides. I'm not saying they're true. I don't know. You know, of course, I don't want to be killed either. So I have to say that as a disclaimer. But in any case, like, you cannot rely on our media because what they are doing, what is going on here with the reality of this whole thing is a dialectic, as in the Hegelian dialectic. You have thesis, make sure I'm in frame here, antithesis, and then synthesis. And you create a synthetic scenario. Let me repeat that. Synthetic, not real, fake scenario. And that is 100% everything that's come across our media. Now, again, I'm not cheerleading for Russia. I don't want them invading anybody. I don't like war. That's not what I'm saying. But they do have a right, if feel threatened, to defend themselves. And again, I think that this is a little bit of a power play on Putin because he's able to. But I think Putin is part of the global world order too. I've seen plenty of pictures where he has a handshake with others, and it is a Masonic handshake. It's pretty easy to spot. I can teach it to any of you in minutes. It's not a hard thing to point to once you understand it. Now, does that mean anything? Maybe it doesn't, but I seem to think it does because of all the reading I've done in the past and all the links and ties I see to all this. Again, I might be wrong. I might be a crazy person, but I'm not doing anything to hurt anybody. So let me have my rants and ravings. The bottom line is that he and China want more power. India does as well. There's disputes there with them and China. The big power, though, is China, and Russia just wants to reform a little bit of its empire. I believe they want their power back. They have been a powerful, influential nation for centuries, and you might not realize that because all you know is the 20th century's nonsense about the Soviet Union. And I don't mean nonsense like I'm being a lefty now saying, um, like defending the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was horrible. I mean nonsense as in the American media obfuscated the reality of the Soviet Union forever, especially organizations like the New York Times. So as Russia collapsed, the Soviet Union, that is, the states begin to split up, become independent and freer or whatever. Russia loses a lot of power and control, and its economy goes down. Initially, in the initial days, in the initial years, people were actually wanting to go back to communism versus free markets. You can look at the surveys. In fact, if you start talking to tankies or you read their stuff online, you'll see that they're pointing to these surveys done in the 1990s, the early 1990s, mind you. How people wanted, they liked communism better. Well, yeah, it's an easier life. You don't have to do anything. You can be lazy and get paid anyways. But dare speak out against the government, right? Of course, and again, we're in that situation now. Dare speak out against the government. So they fell once they got their situations kind of sorted out with their wealthy oligarchs and whatever else. The same thing went on in Ukraine. Then they kind of got some stability. They're kind of getting some more free markets, and finally, in the last decade, 15 years or so, Russia's become more or less a first world nation, and their standard of living's decently high. It's nothing compared to the United States, but it's also, from what I understand, quite cheap to live there in comparison. But they're a nation of a huge amount of natural resources, right? And a big thing that we're talking about with this and their invasion of Ukraine is the oil. Now, interestingly, with the oil, something else you should check out. And again, I will talk about it here briefly, but I'm trying to get in as much as possible. Glenn Beck put out this the other day. Something really isn't right about the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Now, a lot of people have been talking about this. Why is Biden? Why is Biden? He was initially taking sanctions off the Russian Nord Stream 2, right? if I'm not mistaken. That's what happened, right? After Trump put them on. And then he stopped our own pipeline and expansion of oil drilling or anything like that. And now he's looking at opening up the reserves. Oil reserves, folks, I have talked about this before, are meant to be a last resort. If you burn off your reserves now, he did this back in December, by the way, for a day. A day's worth of oil was released. Gone like that, right? And we only have so many barrels of that reserve. Every time they do that, guess what's happening? We're getting closer to having no stockpile in major emergencies. Does that seem intelligent? Does that seem like a good long-term strategy? Then he goes to Iran, an enemy of ours, and says, hey, our oil prices are really high. Can you help us out? And they're like, no, give him the big old bird, right? And then he goes to Saudi Arabia and whatever. Now, again, Glenn Beck covers this. Our oil prices are continuing to go up. They're going to continue to go up with this war. And this is where the dialectic comes in, because you're getting two perspectives, right? You're not really. You're getting one perspective, but you're sort of getting two perspectives. You're getting the Ukrainian perspective and you're getting the Western perspective of helping Ukraine. You're not really getting the perspective of Russia either, though, right? But I mean two perspectives as in Russia's the evil bad guy, and America, the West, Ukraine, they're the good guy. Simple, black and white, childish thinking. War is almost never this simple. Now, sometimes there are tyrants who want to come out, they just want to take things and whatever else. Do I think Putin is that? I don't think so at all. A lot of Russians love that guy. Now, is Putin a nasty guy? Of course. Like I said, he's got to be. He's got to be a strong man. But he's not the strongest of strong men. He's not doing the kind of stuff that they do in China, from what I understand. He's not locking up Uyghur Muslims. He's not taking the Falun Gong's organs. So, there's that. Now, he may disappear some people. He might do some other stuff, but so does China. And I mean, our government disappeared a couple hundred people who walked through the Capitol one day randomly because apparently they were there for an insurrection. Insurrection without weapons, but an insurrection nonetheless. So check out what Beck has to say about this. But the oil thing is what's the biggest telling thing, because what this is about globalism, folks. It's about environmentalism. It's about control. We paint Russia as the bad guy. We say, oh, Russia, you bad guy, you do this, this, and that. And at the same time, we take our instead of taking our lickings as the president or whomever else and saying, well, it's my fault that oil prices went down. Now I can blame it on Putin. Third party. And Americans, I don't believe all Americans are idiots, but most Americans who are watching mainstream media and believe that the president's a good, honest, truthful man are idiots. And that doesn't mean that they don't have high IQs. It just means that they're gullible. They're dumb. They have a bad BS detector. They don't know when they're being lied to. Rubin talked about this too, the suspicious timing of a major policy changes before Biden's SCOTUS direct message, of course. Now, also recall tonight is the State of the Union. So we'll see what Biden says about that, but I doubt there's going to be actual war. What we're doing right now is we're sanctioning the crap out of Russia. And they're going to kick him off the Stripe payment system, meaning he won't be able to use the petrodollar. Oh my goodness, guess what's going to happen? Well, the yuan, not the ruble, because the ruple's worthless anyways, but the yuan in China will become the currency of exchange. Why? Because it has strength. It doesn't have a ton of strength, but it has enough strength, and it has the strength of the CCP. Now, whether the CCP goes after Taiwan and all that stuff eventually, I'm sure it'll happen, but maybe one thing at a time here, right? One thing at a time. But I keep telling you guys, I've been talking about it for, I don't know, months, a year now, whatever, however long I've been doing this thing. However long I've started, kind of getting a little more open about, instead of, kind of like strict lectures and just going with the flow and doing live streams. This is the way we get rid of the petrodollar. The United States has to crash. Think about this, right? Inflation's through the roof right now. gas prices go up to $8, $10 a gallon. Now, I work 30 miles away. I normally don't work that far from home, but right now I'm working 30 miles away from home. That's going to really hurt me. It's also really going to hurt me because I'm driving for a living right now. Now, even though I get reimbursed to some degree, it's going to hurt because then the company's going to have to take that hit too, right? And everything has to go up then. What happens when America's market completely crashes? The last time we had a big crash, 2008, it echoed all over the world because of this globalism, these geopolitics, right? Because of the one world, new world order, right? Imagine a collapse that's 2, 3, 4 times worse. Remember, folks, the Great Reset isn't over. The Great Reset just started. The Great Reset is the idea, in a nutshell, that Klaus Schwab believes that the 20th century was too libertarian. It wasn't strong enough. It wasn't controlled enough. It wasn't direct enough. It wasn't tyrannical enough. And now, Sweden, of all nations, who has a long history of remaining neutral and actually being a relatively free country for its people, is now putting sanctions against Russia. This should be telling because Davos or not Sweden, Switzerland's what I meant to say. I said Sweden by mistake, so forgive me. Misspoke there. Switzerland. The Swiss are the center of banking, folks, along with the city of London. Are you starting to connect the dots? Do you understand how this globalist network works? There's a reason why Schwab held that in Davos. Switzerland is neutral for a reason, not attacked for a reason. So what are we seeing right now? Well, it appears to be a play of power between two adversaries. What I want you to do, though, like I said, is go do your homework, man. Go check out this from Kings and Generals, or this from Geohistory. Listen to what Tim Pool has to say about the emergent ideas and how it's not a conspiracy theory. Yet we have the writings of men like Carol Quigley. I'm pretty sure his book's behind me. I know I keep doing this. I'm like, there it is. Look, I can dig it out. Had to drop like 6 other books on the floor to do it. But we have Tragedy and Hope. You know, Tim went on to talk about George Bush talking about the New World Order. And he goes, hey, he just said a phrase. Is a turn of phrase. No, it wasn't a turn of phrase. He said very specific words, a new world order, a world, a dream, a long-lived dream that we've had, something like that men have fought for forever. This goes back to Sir Francis Bacon's New Atlantis, folks. This was part of the founding of America, that we were going to establish a new world order. It literally was. It was part of, there were 2 paths to take. There was the world empire, and then there was the libertarian minarchist route. And of course, we went the world empire route because power corrupts. 100% every time. And they knew that this would be a potential. There was a part on the occult side of the founders that knew and understood that America was the East Coast of America was like the West Coast of Atlantis. This belief was around in the day, folks. And may I remind you that the Atlantean story is nothing but a repurposing and retelling of the biblical flood story. It is literally a story of the people of a spectacular nation, a city-state, that became corrupt and evil. And so the gods destroyed them through a flood. This isn't just something that's emergent. These people were pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, and they've been doing it for years. I don't know if you all remember Devin Stack, old black pilled. I'm not sure exactly where he streams anymore, but I'm pretty sure he still does work. I used to watch him on DLive on occasion, but I don't even know if he streams over there anymore. But he has a great body of work on this, and Hollywood's indoctrination. You know, the Rockefellers. Go look up. Was it Scarlett Iserbyt, and there are other people that talk about it, but the Rockefeller Foundation and the dumbing down of schools. Tell me this isn't a conspiracy. Is it emergent? Of course it is. Of course it's emergent, because once the zeitgeist gets in the air, everyone becomes possessed. Of course, I just showed you Glenn Beck's thing, but remember, guys, go to Putin's thing. But most importantly, I'm going to tell you right here. I saw the Lotus Eaters today say something about Coach Red Pill talking about randomly being in Kiev. He's not randomly in Kiev. His wife's Ukrainian and his kids are Ukrainian, and they live in Ukraine, or they're staying there right now at the moment. You want to know the history of this stuff and recent history? Coach Red Pill has your back. If you haven't seen this or you haven't heard it, go listen to it. It'll make a lot more sense. He's going to give you a more Russian perspective. However, is it necessary to understand the Russian perspective on the big picture, the big scale? Because the Russian perspective would be for the Russian people, why they might support it, why Russians in Ukraine might support it, why it would make some sense militarily to go in and take certain areas. You know, if a nation was being invaded, now our nation is being invaded every day, but we welcome the invasion because we want to get rid of all the old world beliefs of the white European Christian males. By the way, if you didn't know, CRT, regardless of where it came from, it's all part of that emergent conspiracy, right? That's why, folks, the old world must die. The independent sovereign nations must die. And what you're seeing right now is a bait and switch of who to blame. Russia, the bad guy. Yeah. Not the United States, who kills anyone they want, anytime, invades nations, destroys entire countries, turns them into slave states where you can buy a man for $400. U.S. And I say this stuff to people I know, whatever. I'm a patriot, guys. I'm 100% a patriot. But our government is not a government that is for or by the people. Our government doesn't care about our Constitution. Our government doesn't care about the rights of you or anyone else. Our government cares about the global order because they are the leaders of the global order. They are the eighth beast out of the earth in the book of Revelations. Remember in the book of Revelations, that passage in chapter 13 where no man may buy or sell unless they take the mark of the beast? What do you think taking away the Stripe payment system's about? What do you think all this cancel culture is about? What time do you think you're living in? Maybe you don't believe in Christ. Maybe you don't believe in God at all. I don't know. But it's funny because my worldview, that is based in the Bible, right? It colors my perspective. But the interesting thing, I didn't believe in any of that stuff. I stopped believing in all that stuff in my early 20s. I came back to it. You know why I came back to it? Because the more I found out about the world, and the more I found out about the occult, and the more I found out about conspiracy theory, the more I learned about other religions, the more I understood that Christ was the way and the truth and the light, and that everything else is nonsense. Everything is vanity. To quote King Solomon in Ecclesiastes, there is nothing new under the sun, folks. This is just a whole thing about blaming one bad guy and somebody who will take the blame while they just gain power, and they will. And eventually I'm telling you, the East will be in charge of the world. Now, maybe Christ will return before that happens, but as far as real, true global powers, and don't mistake Russia as a paper tiger. Their military is tough, very tough. I'm understanding they send in their greenest, weakest soldiers, and they have people in reserves. They're going to send in Chechnyans soon. Now, that might be fake news. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that this is all about globalism in the end. It's all about false dichotomies. It's all about that dialectic so that they can create a synthetic world that you buy into. And most of you who listen to me won't buy into it, but your friends will, and your family will, and your loved ones, and all of the rest of the world. You know, Paul said that there'll be a great falling away in the last days. And that happened during the Enlightenment, folks. We're there. We've been in the last days, mind you. That's a biblical term since Christ. It means that, but there is projection there of out to the future. He said that the deception would be so great that even that it would nearly take the very elect, meaning those people who are truly pure in heart, those people who are truly seeking after God. I'm not going to get into a whole diatribe on Calvinism, but basically that predestination, pre-elect stuff, the way Calvin interpreted it, or he didn't even interpret it that way. That's a whole misnomer too. But anyways, the way that Calvinists interpret it is not correct. Christ and God decided that before time, anyone that accepted him would be elected. It's pretty simple. That is the understanding. That is the ancient traditional understanding. You can find it in the first 4 centuries of Christianity. And anyways, in any case, whatever I'm going to do, I got to go to work, guys. I got about 20 minutes before I got to leave. But I wanted to really break this down. And I want you guys, again, go do your homework. Go watch those videos. Go listen to them. Get some perspective on this. Putin took an opportunity with our weak president. But at the same time, Putin, he's just acting along the lines of the world powers. Now, I will add this before I go. I had someone at work tell me the other day, who's been flirting with Orthodoxy. He's not really in the church, but he's been going to Orthodox church. And he told me that, the Orthodox, or some people are saying that this is just Putin taking back the kingdom of God and all this stuff. I'm like, no, you don't. No, I'm telling you right now, if you're an ortho and you're out there and you believe that, you're wrong. That's not what the scripture says. There's nothing in there like that. There is no human being on earth that is going to establish any sort of wonderful kingdom. And I know you'll point to Constantinople. Please explain to me why the Muslim hordes took over Constantinople. Completely over the course of a century, took all their lands until they sieged their city. And why did the Eastern people, right, the Eastern European people under the Ortho Church, why did they succumb to communism? You got to answer those questions for me, bud. If you're going to tell me that that's what God intended, that he intends these things, I don't think so. What God intends is that the world continues on to the one world government, like in the book of Genesis with the Tower of Babel, and they would be like gods. We know that there's to be an echo of this idea of complete immorality as in the days of Noah. Now, people overinterpret that, I believe, quite often. Christ says this in the Olivet Discourse. That's Matthew 24, 25. I forget. It's one of those off the top of my head. And he says, like in the days of Noah, people would be going about marrying and giving into marriage and basically just going about their regular day, doing work, doing whatever. And then one will be taken away. Literally, the word for the rapture, for the rapturing. And there is no secret rapture either, folks. You want to hear all the Protestant nonsense that's out there? All that stuff was written by the counter-reformationists, by the way, who were Jesuits. But whatever. There's all kinds of misinformation out there. You guys need to get into your truth, into the history. You got to dig deep. Tradition changes. People change the tradition. The mindset, the culture changes. And then we forget what the truth was. But anyways, I was saying the actual word for the rapture is like a harpoon. It's to harpoon a person, literally. Like, boom, and then pulled up. It's pretty interesting. Just taken away. But the point is that people won't be paying attention. They'll be doing things as normal. And all of a sudden it'll hit them. This is why in the same lecture, Christ says that, the servant who forgets his master, it becomes weary and starts beating the other servants, will get his just dues when his master returns. The master will not be happy with him. What do you think that means? Well, I can tell you what it means, because right before that, Christ just totally scalded and annihilated the Pharisees and the Sadducees for putting a burden on the people. It means those of you who are Christians and burden other Christians, who beat them, who would murder them, you will be taken into captivity. You will be killed by the sword. You will find condemnation. And you will be cast into outer darkness, as Christ said. I'm going to leave it there, guys. That's all I have to say for today. Thanks for showing up. I didn't expect anyone to show up because I did this last minute. I picked up my daughter from work. I got home. I was like, I'm going to stream. Because I wanted to talk about this, and I haven't been able to stream during the week. Hopefully, I'll be able to stream Friday if I get some time to organize some things. If not, I might do a pre-recorded episode because I really want to talk about this CRT stuff, some of the stuff that James Lindsay has been putting out, because it's definitive. And we're going to do some cuts of the video. And again, James talks about the Hegelian dialectic in the synthesis, the synthetic product. That's what we're looking at. It's something, none of this is organic. None of this is real. It's theater, it's synthetic, it's false, it's fake, it's plastic. I mean, it's the world we live in, right? It's our vanity and our hubris. All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I'll be over on the Justify the Memes tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, as always. I don't know how long the show will be. We'll probably have a shorter show again, just with me working. Tank has, as far as I know, he just needs to get to bed early, right? He's got long days and stuff, and he doesn't sleep well. He's also got to get up quite early in the morning, so can't run a long late show. Things change. You have to improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's life. But I appreciate y'all for hanging out. Let me check Entropy real quick. I didn't shill it over there. Holy cow, I had Architect of Fate in there arguing with Strippy. Strippy, what are you doing? Thank you, Architect of Fate, for says, hello, neighbor. I never want to leave this state. Yeah. Right. Yeah, I wouldn't worry about Strippy. That is either the most it's either a troll or it is the most the largest caricature of the SJW, of the gay SJW you could possibly think of. And I mean, whatever. You're free to be in my chat all you want, partner. I'm not about to ban you for making me laugh. So in any case, guys, this has been All Minus One. My name is Bill, and I wish you all well.